Hi guys, I'm with Grappling Hearts. Today I'm with Jose Shorty Torres. For anyone who doesn't know Shorty, he's a UFC veteran. He holds two titles in Titan Championship, and he's currently fighting with Brave. So, how are you doing today, Shorty?
I'm alive somehow, some way. I'm still kicking, still doing my thing, and just excited to see what's gonna happen next.
For sure, especially with everything going on right now, it's a little rough.
Yeah, how about you? How's everything?
Oh, hanging in there. About the same. Uh, Jose, I guess to start us off, you kind of want to talk about what got you started into martial arts and into fighting.
Well, two reasons. I wanted to be a hero. One of the things I always watched was Dragon Ball Z, Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, shows that always involved people literally fighting for good. And the only way I knew how to do that was to join martial arts to learn how to fight, just in case to be a superhero. And the other reason was my father was a goon in a gang. He was a guy to beat people up, the enforcer, to collect money, stuff like that. So I had a tough upbringing coming up. So naturally, he was always trying to teach me how to fight and trying to make me be what he always wanted to be, and that was a professional boxer. Well, for me, I did karate first at 4 years old, and then from there, I've been in martial arts all my life. So I started throwing kicks and eventually joined wrestling. I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this MMA thing. WEC was real big, and you saw the small guys, Uriah Faber, Joseph Benavidez. And I was like, well, if they can do it, so can I. And I'm still trying to prove today if this shorty can do it, so can you.
For sure. I'm glad you brought that up, though. How long did you wrestle before you went to martial arts? Because your takedowns are just insane.
Thank you. I started wrestling at 14, and the funny thing was two funny things. I was supposed to join, I think around 9 or 10 years old. All my friends in football after would join the wrestling team, and my dad at the time back in the day was a little homophobic. So I was like, Dad, I want to join. I want to join wrestling. He's like, is that the one where they wear the tights and stuff like that? I'm like, yeah, yeah. Technically, he's like, no, we're not doing that. That's that. You're not gay. I was like, okay. And so I go to my friends. I'm like, no, that's gay. I can't do it. Sorry. Just being a little parakeet and just repeating what my father said. So I never did it. And then when I was 14, surprisingly, somehow, some way, being 5'4", I didn't make the basketball team. So I lost the bet. And I was like, all right, well, I lost the bet. Time to honor it. And so I lost the bet against the wrestling coach, joined the wrestling team, and the entire year I tried my best to get cut. It was fun, but I just didn't want to do it. It just wasn't right for me. But I was naturally a little more talented than some of the other guys because I was in martial arts already. So I knew about hip movements, I knew about body control, stuff like that. And then I lost by 1 point in my junior year in high school to make it to state, and I was like, damn, I could actually be pretty good at this. Let me actually try for once. And little I know, I become a state qualifier, and then I become an All American in college and doing all these things. And I got a full ride to my university because of wrestling and my grades as well, but wrestling helped.
That's cool. I didn't even know you, which I might sound terrible for saying, I didn't know you went to college. What'd you go to college for?
Yeah, I know. I don't seem like the brightest person in the world, no, but I went to college. My degree was leadership in sports and exercise science, or technically, it could be there's because all the classes we took could either be considered kinesiology or even pre med because how many medical classes we took. But it's crazy. I went to school to be a gym teacher because I always wanted to help people in my community, try to be a teacher, try to be a guidance like counselor type of thing. But in Illinois, it's very, very hard to become a teacher. Like the requirements are very strict. Either you take a specific type of test to see if you qualify, or your ACT score has to be high enough so you automatically qualify. Well, one, I didn't want to take a test, and two, I've already taken the ACT twice, and I didn't have the best scores. So I was
I
like, you know
feel
what? Let me
you.
just change my degree and try something else, and ended up being leadership in sports and exercise science.
That's cool. So you've always just been very sports oriented then. Just
Yeah, I was one of those kids from The Sandlot. If you ever seen the movie The Sandlot, like I was
yeah.
always riding my bike, always trying to go to people's houses. I mean, the only time I never played sports was, I guess, when you get into Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff like that. But for me, we all definitely had those phases. But for me, I was always that kid who's like, all right, we're gonna ride our bike to the park. What are we gonna play today? We're gonna play football. Cool, we're gonna play football. We got the softball. We're gonna play softball, kickball. So I was always outside. And my rule with my dad at least, he was like, I don't care if you come home. You can stay out all day. You can sleep over your friend's house every single night. just don't bring the cops home. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Again, my dad was in a gang, so my upbringing was very, very different. And we did have drugs in the house. So my dad's like, don't bring your friends over. No one can come here. Go to your friend's house. I don't care. So it was always trying to be active. And I was always that wild kid that was just trying to enjoy life to the fullest.
Do you think that upbringing might have benefited you in that way of constantly pushing you to be active?
it it made me, it definitely kept me active naturally. So even when I do want to break, I feel bad not, getting up and doing something. Plus my mother, especially with school, she was always just like, I don't care how sick you are, unless you're dying, you're going to go to school. So even if I miss a practice for whatever reason, even if my coaches tell me to skip a practice because of how I'm performing, I feel bad, like I got to get up and do something. But I was just always very, very active, and I always just naturally wanted to have fun and to make people smile. So I always brought people with me. I always did certain things. So it was very, in a sense, team oriented. And I've been in sports since I was 4 years old, from football, baseball, basketball, karate all year round, then eventually MMA and just martial arts in general. So my whole life, my mother always kind of pushed me and literally kept me in sports so I would stay off the streets.
That's good. Where you've been training for so long, and I'd seen that there was a fight where you had, I believe you tore your MCL and you broke your hand. What do you think? Would that be your worst injury you've ever gotten from training?
Sadly, so far, because there's definitely going to be more in the future. But it's one of those things that, knock on wood, I guess. But it's one of those things that, in that fight, I was bumping up to a different weight class. I was trying to do something different, trying to do something at least in that promotion no one's ever done before. And I it was funny because I was like, man, this guy doesn't really hit that hard. Like, cool, I can kind of walk forward with my hands down. And I don't know if you ever played Super Smash Bros, but he was like Captain
Yeah.
Falcon before he throws his Falcon punch. Like, he just sat down and charged it for some reason. I was like, what is he doing right there? Oh my God. And he hit me. And when I fell, it was just like, you wake up on the floor, you're like, whoa. And then I dodged the knee, got stuck in a guillotine, got up, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I survived that, my turn. And I went to punch him, and he put his forehead down. For people who don't know, the forehead's the second strongest bone in the body. So that's why they say in boxing, walk forward with your head up, with your forehead down. So you're like taking the punches at the hardest spot. And I punched like a little bit wrong, one knuckle at the top of the forehead, and I heard a pop. I felt like a click in my hand. I was like, did I just break my hand? And so I punch again, and I was like, no, yeah, it's definitely broken. And so I just kind of stopped throwing my right hand a little bit, and the second round comes up. My coach is like, what? Why are you not throwing your right hand? What's up? And he's mic'd up, so everyone can hear him. So I'm like, I broke my hand, just trying to whisper it. And he's like, all right, then you got to elbow the hell out of him. You got to do this, got to do that. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I stand up. I didn't know that when you tear whatever ligament, sometimes as a defense mechanism, your leg just goes stiff on purpose because it doesn't
Yeah.
want you to move anymore. So when I stood up, I was like, all right, cool, gotta shake out my limbs. I shook out my left leg, it wobbled like that. And I shake out my right leg and it just goes up and down. And I'm like, huh? And then the bell rings and I'm literally dragging my leg out. And then he starts punching me and then you just forget. And so I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna just start punching again with my right hand. I'm kicking with my right leg. And the reason it happened is because when I got dropped, I fell back in a super awkward angle. Your body goes limp. And sadly, it tore my MCL, but luckily it was just my MCL. It wasn't anything else around it. So I'm happy about that.
Right, for sure. How long were you in, I guess, physical therapy or recovery after that?
So lucky for me, I had a really good therapist by the name of Mindaloo, and she owns a company called Muscle. Oh man, what is it called? It's M3, which is like Muscle Memory Movement, I believe. I could be horribly wrong. And but she allowed me in her house for about a month and a half, 2 months, and we just did rehab on both my hands and my knee. Actually, she saved my hand. I didn't know that after I got my surgery, sometimes there can be infections. And so I got the surgery, and out of nowhere, I had like a little pimple. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, it's a pimple. And then eventually it turned into a little bit of a boil. It's like, um, cool, it's a boil. Like I get boils in my arm sometimes. Sure, whatever, it'll come out to be a pimple one day. And out of nowhere, it just kind of like turns a little bit black. And I'm like, all right, cool. Now she's doing therapy in my hand. She's like, have you had this the entire time? I was like, I guess. Cool. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just a tough guy. Sure, whatever. She goes, let me check some out. She puts a hot pad on it, and immediately the boil pops, and my hand just swells up almost twice the size. She goes, yeah, we're
Ooh,
going to the hospital. I think you got staph infection. I was like, oh, great. So
great.
I ended up having to take medication. If she wasn't there, I wouldn't have never gone to the hospital. So and we're like, I'm good, and then walk around with no arm. So it's she helped my therapy that much faster. I think it was about 4 months total until I could punch again and until I could like completely walk and run again. And for people who don't know, the MCL is the ligament on the inside of the knee. So it's anything turning your knee inwards. If you try to get your knees to touch together, it's pretty much the movement I'm trying to say. And that was the scariest part. Is the hand is whatever. This is all metal now, so I'm not worried about it. But the knee, on the other hand, they can tear like that. So
Right.
when I was showing moves, slowly getting back into it, I was training with TJ Dillashaw, and immediately he just starts taking me down and going 100%. I'm like, oh my god, I was just completely afraid to try new things because I didn't know what my movement was going to be like. So you get a little scared about it. But overall, I mean, it's a scary thing, but I'm happy everything's fully recovered.
For sure. I'm glad for you. If you're a good fighter, you deserve to be in there. Let's talk about I believe was it with the UFC you cut 28 pounds for a fight on like a really
Yes.
short notice?
So I had about 10 UFC calls, and I denied all of them for really obvious reasons. I think five of them were because I was still injured. Where, for example, I think I had my injury in May, and they're like, "Hey, you want to fight in June?" It's like, dude, I got a broken hand. Like, I can't fight. They're like,
Right.
"Okay, cool, cool. You want to fight at the end of June?" I was like, "I have a broken hand. I cannot fight. When can you fight?" I'm like, September. All right, cool. And they literally called me three more times. You want to fight in July? You want to fight in August? Okay, you said September. You want to fight September 1st? I'm like, no, no, no. That means September 1st, I can start punching the bag again. That doesn't mean I'm just, all right, cool, I'm healed, I can go fight. So they were being very considerate about like me fighting. And then there were super last minute fights where it was just like, you want to fight in 5 days? You want to fight in tomorrow? And I was like, no, like dude, you see my resume. Like, give me a proper fight. I want to put on a great show, but
Right.
I'm being signed to a dying division, so they didn't really care. They're like, you're popular, you're cool, but we don't really care. We're gonna like fire everyone eventually anyway. So even if you do well, we're probably not excited for it. So I eventually got the last call for Jared Brooks. And that was 10 days when I got the call, and I immediately said no. I was like, dude, I'm sick of this. Like, no, I'm not going to take these last minute fights. Give me a proper fight and whatever. So they said no. They gave me no option. They say either you take the fight or we'll call you some other time, but it's always going to be last minute. And I'm like,
Wow.
okay. So the next day, I call my nutritionist. I was like, hey, what do you like? I'm laughing about it. I'm like, oh, they want me to cut 26 pounds in 9 days. And I was technically more, but at the time I was like, let me start cutting a little bit. I was 26 pounds in 9 days. And my nutrition, he's like, Shorty, you're not out of shape. You're just fat. Like, you're just kind of treating your body like crap. So how about we take this fight, but you have to stay mentally strong. And for people who've never done a weight cut before, it is some of the most grueling things in the world. I'm a flyweight, so if people don't know that, 57 kilograms or 125 pounds, 26 pounds of weight in general is almost quarter of my weight. That's a lot,
Right.
and I'm a small guy, so um, I ended up making weight, and I didn't perform to the best of my ability. I completely forgot that I had a fight. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this is part of the job. I fought, I won, whatever the case may be, and then I'm like, cool, when am I gonna fight again? And also, they gave me the ultimatum. They go, hey, just to let you know, if you miss weight, you're cut. I'm like, hold on, you know how fat I
Bro.
am. So you're really kind of giving me the super short end of the stick. Anyways, I make weight, fight, win, and I was like, when am I going to fight again? This is in June. They go, well, you're going to fight maybe in December. We're going to put you at the end of the bench and then kind of recycle everybody up. I'm like, sure, cool. I'm in the UFC already. I don't care about it. Then like a few weeks later, I'm eating. I'm eating like crap. I'm not going to fight until December. I'm helping people. I'm traveling, and then I come back and I'm training with some guys, and they go, hey, do you want to fight Alex Perez in 20 days? I was like, I mean, I want to fight Alex Perez. I just don't want to do it in 20 days. I'd like a bigger notice. But then they knew I trained with TJ and Cup Swanson and in LA before, so I had a fan base there. So they're like, well, TJ's headlining the card. DJ is there, and I was a huge fan of DJ. Cup Swanson was on the card. It's at the Staples Center. And if you don't get the call now, or if you don't take the call now, you don't fight this December. You fight sometime next year, and it does not mean January. And I'm like,
Wow.
so you're giving me an ultimatum saying, certain stuff. Plus, the UFC, if you deny a fight, that's technically like kind of going to, like you can deny fights, but they can cut you for denying fights. Like what they did with Yair Rodriguez. I think he denied a couple fights in a row because it just wasn't fitting his schedule, and they
Yeah.
cut him. And then eventually re-signed him, but they cut him. So I was like, sure, took the fight. I cut 28 pounds in 20 days. So in about, I think like 50 days, I cut 54 pounds. So I was like,
Geez.
that's definitely more than a quarter of my weight. And when I got there, I was so mentally broken that on Monday of fight week, I just wanted to go home. Like I didn't care what happened. I just wanted to fight, go home. And even during the fight, it was one of those things that were like, you see everything coming, but for some reason your body's just not reacting to any of it. And I lost my first TKO in ever, and I was on I believe a 33 or 34 fight winning streak, and I'm like, crap, it happens, whatever. Like next fight, and then I was making my own little YouTube series, just being honest with people, all just my mental aspects of what I've been going through, and trying to be a big brother in a sense. And I made a video when DJ got traded to ONE FC. I was like, man, I think they're gonna start cutting the flyweight division. I made a speculation video, no idea that this was gonna happen, and I ended up being the first person cut because of my video. And I was like, oh, but everyone else can say Dana White's this, Dana White's that. All the matchmakers, everyone's being a Colby Covington or a Conor McGregor, but I give a speculation, not accusing anyone of anything, but I got released. So I got the very short end of the stick and I got cut.
Well, and my thing on that too is I don't think I've ever seen you outright be disrespectful towards any other fighter or any type of promotion. Like there's a difference
Yeah.
in stating your opinion and just being disrespectful about it. So
And that
that's
was the
like,
thing. That's what I got in trouble was. I guess they didn't want to hear my opinion. And the good thing was, my speculation was right, but it was bad publicity because BJPenn.com shared it, Flow Combat shared it, MMA Junkie shared it because they're like, man, this guy might be onto some. And then, well, I guess I was right.
that's nuts. So for your advice to like amateur fighters or fighters trying to come up, we're talking about cutting that much weight on that such short notice and taking fights without like a proper fight camp. Do you feel like it's socially acceptable to be able to say no, or do you feel like it's like frowned upon?
It's definitely acceptable to say no under certain circumstances. Like if you're saying no because you think an opponent's too good for you, or here's the thing: as an amateur, say yes. It doesn't matter if you lose. You can be 30-0 or 0-30. Once you go pro, you're 0-0. So all these losses as an amateur does not mean a thing. So and being an amateur is like a video game. Like you can keep on playing, and then eventually when you want to go pro, you can just press the reset button and then turn it off and on again, and there you go. Now you're pro, and now that's when the real game, comes into play. But as a professional, you do want to pick your fights nice and smart and make sure you're not jumping too far ahead, and make sure that if you are fighting somebody, you are doing a couple of things. One, getting proper fights, and two, eventually challenging yourself in the best way possible to where you know that this is a tough fight. It makes you a little scared, a little nervous, but those are the fights that are going to push you. Because you take nothing but easy fights. If you keep on fighting in the same city the entire time, you're a big fish in a little pond. As an amateur, I was able to fight in Chicago, Missouri, Florida, Texas, and then eventually travel around the world and fight at national and world tournaments. So that was different. I got to be the big fish in multiple ponds and go, you know what? I feel like I'm ready for pro compared to a lot of guys in my neighborhood. In the city of Chicago, they go 5-0, turn pro, and then they lose their first two fights against a guy from Tennessee or California or wherever. So it's swallowing your pride and getting different experiences. For me, our rule was 20 plus fights. If you get 20 MMA fights, then you can turn pro. But until then, we weren't allowed to turn pro because my coach, trained Shoney Carter, Terry Martin, all these high level guys that once they turned pro super fast, they didn't do so well. So he just learned from their experiences and goes, this is what you should do. And it worked out really well. And look where I'm at today because of it. But as a pro, I think this is just me, and I'm also I have a Napoleon complex, so I got to be the best of my ability, especially against the bigger guy. It's if you want to be a champion and you 100% believe you can be a champion, fight whoever is in front of you. Don't go, man, this guy is good. I'm going to kind of try to go around him. Once you're a champion, you got to fight whoever's next in line. Don't pick a popularity contest. Don't do this. You have to fight whoever you believe is next. And then once you start making, hopefully, some good money, money is very, very important in the sport because, one, like in the UFC, they can cut you like that. And two, I could be walking outside somehow stub my toe and the doctor tells me I can't fight anymore. So it's one of those things that you need to be able to make sure you have enough money to figure out what you're going to do just in case something does happen.
That's good advice. You want to talk about some of the differences you might see in from going to UFC to like Titan to Brave,
Mm-hmm.
just in the promotions?
Yeah, Titan FC is a good regional promotion that you look at it as that is the feeding ground. That is pretty much the feeder program to bigger promotions like UFC, Brave, and Bellator, stuff like that. If you do well in those promotions, if you become a champion, usually you can bump up to to the bigger promotions. That's your make it or break it. Usually, a lot of people in Titan FC are already ready for the high level, so that's your testing ground, that's your battleground. But if you don't do well, then sadly you're not going to make it to the top. But if you make it to the UFC, Bellator, Brave, those are the best of the best. So you have to make sure you're training, keeping your weight low to your weight, which is usually my problem, and making sure that you are, smart as possible in picking your fights. Because the UFC calls, and I've definitely learned this, the Jared Brooks fight, cool. I more than likely do it again. The Alex Perez fight, it doesn't matter on the opponent. Whether if I could have been 100% mentally there or not, that same outcome still could have happened. But it's the fact of being able to make sure you're 100% mentally and physically prepared for a fight to stay. If you lose, screw it. I lost my best compared to what I did, woulda, shoulda, coulda, and I just wanted to go home. So it's okay sometimes to say no and be like, you know what? If you're gonna treat me this way, then I don't want to deal with you anyways.
Okay, with that, do you want to talk about I know it wasn't that too awful long ago. If I remember right, you had lost your dad and you still went ahead and
Mm-hmm.
fought. You want to talk about like you were going about being mentally strong, where that kind of helps you out?
Yeah, it's crazy because I never lost someone close to me. You lose pets, animals, stuff like that, but it hits you very different when it's your parents. For me, I did this whole sport because of my father. A lot of the stuff in my life has been solely because of my father to impress him, to make him proud, to make him happy, and to really achieve what he's always wanted to achieve. So when he passed away, I didn't give myself proper grieving time. And given there were a lot of other circumstances where, for people who don't know, if you follow me on IG, Jose Shorty Torres, I put my life on Instagram and I put my stories out there where I'm just having fun or it's a bad day or this or that. Like I try to be as realistic as possible. And I was going out to Dubai or Abu Dhabi, I believe, Abu Dhabi to commentate for Brave. And this was about a month-ish before my fight. And there were messed up plans from United Airlines, so planes got delayed. Then we flew to Rome, and I was supposed to go immediately from Rome to Abu Dhabi. And because of another flight being delayed, I missed my flight in Rome. They're like, just let you know, you're going to be here for 12 hours. You want to stay in our room? I was like, no, I want to go out in Rome. Like I'm going to roam around Rome and have a great time. And I'm like, this is awesome. Coincidentally, though, it was also my father's birthday when I was in Rome. So I was like, you know what? When I'm there, I'm going to give him a call, FaceTime, and have some fun. And my father, I don't know if he passed away from cancer or some type of cancer, but he lost, I think he lost 100 and something pounds naturally without
Phew.
working out. Like he just got really skinny. So anytime I traveled, because for people who don't know, I travel almost 2 months to 3 months at a time to my training camps, and then I go home for 2 weeks and maybe a month, and then I leave again. So I'm barely with my family, which is a very hard sacrifice you have to make it to be a professional MMA fighter. But I was like, all right, every time I say bye to my father, I always feel like it's the last time I'm gonna see him, just in case, So I called him for his birthday, love him, have a great conversation. I was like, hey, I'll call you when I get to the airport before I leave. Coincidentally, I missed my flight again trying to get back to the airport. I took the wrong train and ended up in like the middle of Italy somewhere instead of going back to Rome. And I ended up calling him. I was like, "Oh, I got another 12 hours. Might as well call him." And immediately my brother picks up the phone crying. I'm like, "Dude, what's up?" And at literally like 5 minutes before I called him, my dad passed out from a heart attack, and the ambulance had to take him. Little I know, my dad had to take a triple bypass surgery. I had to open up his chest and go through surgery. And at the end of it, I finally get to Abu Dhabi, and I'm just like, okay, waiting on the phone, trying to figure out what's next. They lose my bags. And for people who don't know me, like I do carry a lot of jewelry with me, especially because I'm commentating. I like to have some fun. I had like I had custom suits, I had jewelry, and I had like $10,000 of stuff in that like suitcase. I'm like, dude, you lost my bags? Oh
Like,
man,
find
like somebody's.
it.
That was like somebody's gonna steal my stuff, and that was something I was so worried about. So I'm worried about my dad. I'm worried about my jewelry, and then I have nothing to wear for this commentating gig because I don't have my bags with me. So I do the commentating gig, and I'm going through this crazy dilemma of trying to figure out where my bags are from because they're like, "Oh no, we transferred to the other airlines." Other airlines is like, "Nope, we never got it," and it was like a feud. It was really weird. It's like two little kids trying to blame each other to not get in trouble. And I finally make it back. My family's like, "Hey, Dad's gonna live. He's good. He's just, he's gonna recover now." I'm like, "Awesome," but he's sedated still, so he's never woken up. I'm like, "All right, I'm here. I'm training," and then eventually, like a couple days later, I get a call saying my mom's like, "Hey, we talked to the doctors. We're gonna have to pull the plug." And I'm like, "Huh? All right. Well, I'm gonna take the next flight when I can, and I'll go home." And so I was like, I'll pull the plug with you guys. Please wait for me." I had like 4 hours until I had to leave. So I was like, you know what? I still have practice. Might as well go down and practice because that's all I know. And so I went downstairs, and I'm just already super sad, but I'm trying to keep a straight poker face. And everyone is asking me again. I'm the smiler in the room. I'm the one that makes everyone smile. Everyone's like, "Dude, what? You okay? Like, what's up?" And I'm just like trying my best not to ball out. I'm just like, I gotta go home and pull the plug on my father. So I was super sad, hugging people, stuff like that. And I remember sparring with Pantoja, and he's like, "Are you good to spar?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I need this. Like, this is my stress relief." So I end up sparring, and it's like the hour of time away from time. That's my practice. That's how practice is for me. And right after sparring was done, it's kind of like life hit me again, and I'm hugging some shirtless, sweaty Brazilian, that we just finished punching each other in the face, and he's like, "Dude, it's okay. Like, go home." And I was like, "All right, cool." Grabbed my stuff, got to the airport, went home, and that whole time on the plane, like I was just super paranoid that my father wasn't going to make it, that he was going to pass before we were able to pull the plug or finally have me say goodbye. So I finally get back to the hospital. Perfect. Everyone's there. They gave me my own space. I said goodbye. And then I'm like, all right, cool. Like, let's do this. Me, the way I cope is through comedy to make people smile. For the whole time, I seem like nothing's wrong. But technically, like, it just hasn't hit me yet. And I'm like, okay, cool. And later on the day you cry, and then the next day you cry, and you just kind of it becomes consistent because now I'm back home, and the only time I'm home is when my father is there. My father always was kind of ill, so I would spend a lot of personal time with him. My father was my best friend. There go my lights. My father was my best friend. So later on the week, I bury my father. I do the speech, all that stuff, which is super hard to do. And immediately they're like, "Are you gonna fight still?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I don't know what else to do. What am I gonna do? Stay here? Like, Dad's gone. What am I gonna do?" So I'm being the big tough guy, and I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna keep on fighting. Like, Dad's dead, whatever." And I come down here and I keep training. The only problem is, um, at the same time, coincidentally, Brave was gonna do this like, kind of like documentary thing for the fight. Interviewing my fighter, interviewing me, and coincidentally, my dad passed away. So that ended up being a highlight of the thing. Like, "Hey, man, let's talk about this. Like, do you want to talk about it?" I'm like, "Yeah, like I'm fine. I'm fighting. Father passed away, so be it." Then I get to Worlds, and I end up meeting people or re-seeing people that have been really really close to me. So now I can easily open up to them, and immediately they're like, "Hey, man, you okay? You okay? You okay?" Every single day for 10 days straight, I'm just bawling my eyes out, telling the same story over and over and over, hearing the same exact things. And I'm also cutting weight, so I'm just mentally not there. And I'm not trying to compare it to like a woman's period week, but I was pretty much having the time of the month the entire time. So my mood switched like that. And especially because people kept on bringing stuff up, I just got really sad. It was kind of like I just don't want to do anything, and eventually we started doing this weight cut. And my weight was coming off perfect. Then out of nowhere, for 4 days straight, my weight wasn't doing anything. It was just maintaining. And I'm like, why? Like I'm still doing the exact same thing. My emotions were holding everything back. And eventually, the last day before the weigh-ins, I ended up having this extreme panic attack. And the crazy thing was, my nutritionist has had multiple panic attacks, and he's like, "This is what you need to do. Like, control your breath, relax. Like, tell me what's in the room." And I literally wanted to do the opposite of everything he was saying because I wanted to pass out and hallucinate, wake up in the hospital, wake up back at home when I'm already in the Middle East, wake up next to my father. Like I was thinking of like crazy stuff. Like it was kind of like if I wanted to die. And sadly, didn't die. But I was just like, whoa, I can't do this fight. I reminisced about my last UFC fight, and I was like, I was so mentally broken for that fight that no matter how well I physically prepared for it, you can have the best machine in the world, but if there's no good operator, what's it worth? And that's really what it was. So I ended up having to back out of the fight, which is the hardest thing to do, especially when you're right there. And then I made it worse for myself by, going out to the press conference and stating why I backed down, trying to be a respectful person instead of just hiding. And then I went to the fights, and that's the worst thing. When you go to the fights, it looked like a WWE event. People are coming out, walking out with fireworks, and I was like, this is so awesome, So, it's saddening, and I haven't fought for a whole year now. So I'm just like, you know what? I need to mentally prepare myself. Went home, spent time with my mother, my brother, traveled. Sadly, I guess another coping mechanism is spend all my money for whatever reason. So I was like, whatever's in my wallet, let's just do this. It was literally like I bought useless stuff. And I'm just like, I didn't know I was a spender. Damn, now I'm broke. And I haven't fought in over a year, so I'm like, I need a sugar mama, I need a sugar daddy. Anybody? No? Anybody? So, yeah, so I was like, I'll do some regrettable things. Anybody? No? But I was like, all right. And then I was getting ready for this fight, and I felt that I was mentally prepared, working with Andy Murphy on my mindset, working on my nutritionist, on my goals, and really was going to spend a lot of money on my camp to make sure that if I lost at my best. And if I won, I'm back at it. And, this whole coronavirus ended up, canceling my fight 10 days before it happened. It was just like, damn, now
Right.
another block in the road. So it's trying my best to stay as mentally strong as possible. And that's the hardest thing is I'm in a dorm right now, and my manager's down the block with his kids, his family, all that stuff. I was telling them, like, no, I don't want to go out. I'd literally lay in bed for hours. Even when I'm not tired, I would try my best to fall asleep. I would just close my eyes and but my mind would be racing, but I never wanted to do anything. And depression is a real crazy, crazy thing. It makes you want to do some dumb things. I was like, I don't care what happens. I'm not saying I want to kill myself, but man, if a car was about to hit me, I wouldn't move. Like it was just that type of stuff. So for me, staying mentally strong, for people who want to see some of the mindset stuff that I've posted on Inside Team Shorty on YouTube, that's what I've done. Is trying to be a big brother and go, this sport and life in general too, it isn't fair. But you got to try to make it as fair as possible. You got to try to be able to stay positive, because getting punched in the face for a living and then also having to lose a social life, possibly lose time with family, friends is ridiculous. I mean, if you think about it, for people who don't know, I was here in March. I was supposed to fight in August. So I was here for multiple months. My fight got postponed, and then I went home for 2 weeks, spent my last time with my father, and then came back for 3 months, and then my father passed away. And I didn't have a fight because I backed out. So that's 6, 7 months that I could have spent with my father at home instead of training for possibly technically nothing. So there's a lot of sacrifices in the sport. So it's trying your best to enjoy the journey while it lasts, because once it's gone, it's definitely gone.
100%, dude. And like you said, I really don't think people understand what fighters put themselves through and the road they try to take just to make it to the top. It's such a difficult journey. It's like you see everyone else with careers and climbing up the career ladder. There's a guideline or a handbook for that. Versus
Mm-hmm.
fighting, you gotta kind of try to figure it out on your own. I mean, sure, you got your coaches there and all, but there's not exactly a guide to making it to the top.
And
Um,
everyone's different. It's definitely a journey. Again, I've had 30, what is that? I'm 10 fights in now. So I've had 36 fights in MMA and then multiple more in like wrestling, kickboxing, Muay Thai. Every fight has been different. You never get used to it. The fear never goes away. And like I've lost relationships with this. I've lost friends. I've lost connections. You know, technically I've lost spending time with family members, especially my father. I had a friend who just passed away, a close friend named Izzy that passed away. So it's one of those things that when you talk to people or have the opportunity to hang out with somebody, enjoy it because you seriously never know when's the last time. And it's crazy because the story with Izzy, when I went home for those 2 weeks, or not the 2 weeks before I came for this fight, I was literally trying to reminisce and spend time with the friends from high school that I haven't seen in years. This is my 10-year reunion now. I feel old as crap. And I ended up seeing one of my good friends that I used to look up to and I haven't seen in a while. And then he ended up getting into a little bit of hallucinogens, kind of trying to trip and have some fun. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I guess he just took a wrong mixture and, overdosed sadly. And his body just
and
couldn't take it. And it's just one of those things that's like, dude, I was just with you and you were doing really, really well. So it's crazy how things can literally be there now and be gone tomorrow.
I feel you, dude. We got some family stuff like that going on ourselves, but a shift away from that a little bit, a little bit of a more I don't want to say happier tone, but uh, one last thing I want to touch on you, or one last thing I want to touch with you on is do you want to talk about some of the struggles of being I guess a smaller fighter, as far as people, you know,
The hardest part for being a smaller fighter in MMA, and this is not in any other sport, it's just MMA, is the popularity and respect. No one respects the smaller fighters. No one respects the tiny guys because they don't believe we have power. They don't believe we have really just power. That we don't make it entertaining. The hard part is the UFC has belittled us because for whatever reason DJ wasn't exciting. Dude, he suplexed someone to an armbar. How was that not exciting? He's finished Kyojo Horiguchi, who's never been finished before, with 2 seconds or 1 second left in an armbar. It's just one of those things where he ended up beating Joseph Benavidez by a knockout in the first round. So it's one of those things. It's like, how is a man not exciting when you literally have? We might not have the power as heavyweights where they don't need the technique. They're super sloppy, but they're super entertaining because you never know what's going to happen with these small
yep,
guys. There's so much technique, and because we don't have as much power as they have, we're just going at it. And it might be a longer fight. Some of them might not be a finish, but it's the fact of there's always action. And we
right,
have to be better. We have to be more talented. It's honestly like the women fights. We don't have as much power. So the women, they have to be more technical with jiu-jitsu. They have to be more technical with their strikes. And when they finally get the punches or the knockouts, TKOs and stuff like that, it's because of an awesome sequence they had to set up. Not everyone is an Amanda Nunes that can sometimes just swing and out of nowhere knock someone out. Not everyone's a Francis Ngannou that can just close his eyes, throw a punch, and someone dies. It's one of those things that
yeah,
for the small guys were entertaining. But you look at boxing, for example, you have Manny Pacquiao, you have Lomachenko, you have Rigondeaux, you have Inoue, you have so many good small fighters. Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, you have so many small fighters that are paid a lot, that are super popular, that are main events, but in the UFC or in other MMA promotions, they're not respected. You look at DJ. DJ, I think out of 12 UFC title fights, 11 title defenses, he, I think, was a main event twice, maybe 3 times. And it's like, why? Even his history-making fights were co-main events to just vacant title fight championships. And it's like, okay, that doesn't make sense. And it's the respect of the UFC. You look at, no offense to the average MMA fan, but average MMA fans are not the brightest. If Dana White or the UFC says, look at this guy, he's really good, most likely, even if you just heard his name, everyone's going to be like, look at this guy, he's really good. Look at Sage Northcutt. He was a prime example. Look at this pretty boy, he's really good. And then he lost almost every fight in the UFC. everyone still thought he was good because the UFC said he was good. And then when he got cut, everyone's like, "Oh, that guy's not that good." It's like that's not the case. Because the UFC says something does not mean it's 100% true. Because the promoter of whatever promotion says it does not mean it's 100% true. So it's having the MMA fans actually pay attention to certain fighters, and I think they should give, the small guys an equal chance. And that's the hardest part is that the UFC, especially the UFC, haven't given us equal share.
Well, hopefully it changes soon. Although, I mean, maybe they'll bring back their flyweight division. Hopefully one day, and hopefully it gets more height that it deserves. I guess to end us off, Shorty, I mentioned the game. If you'd like to play, we got trivia.
Let's do it. I'm gonna be horrible at this. It's gonna be awesome.
Half the questions are about Chicago, and half the questions are about MMA.
Are even worse. Perfect.
I got you. First one is Chicago is known as the blank capital.
Well, I know it's the Windy City, but it's the shooting capital of the nation. The food
That's
capital.
A good one. I found railroad capital because of how many times trains come in and out of the city every day.
That's actually, it's funny. Now I'm thinking, I was like, that makes sense. All right.
Okay. What year was Titan FC founded?
Oh man, that I definitely don't know that one. All right, gotta make up some crap. When did I fight with them? 2008.
You're almost. You're close. 2005.
Okay.
Okay, let's see if you can do this one. Name an invention that came from Chicago.
Oh man.
Shoot your shot.
That's not fair. Oh, I always shoot my shot. I always lose. I always get turned down. But that's a whole different story. Let's see. Well, I can't be like, oh, Chicago style hot dog, Chicago style pizza. I feel like that's unfair. Damn, what came out of Chicago? Have we even invented anything? I've got an entire list.
Do what?
Oh man, I was like, have we ever invented anything? Damn, this is really. See, I told you, I'm gonna suck at this trivia.
Okay, here I'll give you a hint. There's one on here that you see a lot of this in Chicago on like the walls, like on the building walls, and like on
graffiti.
Spray paint.
Really?
Yeah.
That is that's actually very. I'm gonna tell my brother because my brother is a graffiti artist, and whether it's legally or illegally, and that's all he does. Like that is his passion, is graffiti.
Well, you got something to talk about him with now.
That's actually really good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, what year did the first Brave event take place?
What year did the first Brave event take place?
Yep.
Damn, I commentated for that event. 2017.
I read 2016.
Was it 2016? Was it December 2016? Damn it.
Yeah.
All right.
Did you say you commentated that event?
Yeah, I commentated for that event with Cyrus Cheese.
Here's a question for you because I read this and I can't pronounce it for anything in my life, so I'm curious. What's the name of that city that it was in?
It's oh man, what is the name of the city?
I mean, I could spell it for you because I wrote it down.
Yeah, I know it's at the Khalifa Sports Center and it's in the Kingdom of Bahrain. What? Spell it for me.
It's a ISA town. But I was curious about the word you just said, the one that starts with a B.
Yeah, so it's in Isa. So in Isa and Bahrain. So you gotta say so technically some people say Bahrain or like for some reason they add an extra A and say Bahrain, but it's Bah, like you have to go like Bahrain. Bahrain.
I learned something new today.
Yeah.
Okay, this tower, located in Chicago, is the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere, standing at 110 stories. Do you know what it is?
So it's the Sears Tower or Willis Tower. I don't know if they changed the name back, but.
Well, I'll take either one because that's what I found. The internet is our friend. In what year and what event was the first to use the octagon?
What year was the first what?
In what year and what event was the first to use the octagon?
So UFC 1 in 1993?
Yes.
Yeah, I got one. I got one.
Woo! Well, thank you for coming on here today, Shorty. Before we sign off, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. We're sponsored by Sweeps Apparel, Stretch Nine, and B2G Coffee. If anyone watching, hit them up. We're super good people at all those companies. Shorty, if you have anyone you want to give shout out to, you could do so.
I appreciate everyone supporting me, and that's why I always do say we can, we will together. We are Team Shorty. I know we're going through tough times, so it's crazy right now, but there's two things. One, I've partnered up with a company called Tri Titans that make like sports apparel. We're actually making, I can't remember the material, but pretty much waterproof face masks or water resistant face masks. So if somebody coughs or sneezes in your face, it ain't being absorbed in the cloth. So that's a good thing. But we're making that, and pretty much whoever buys a bundle, we're donating a bundle to whatever charity I decide to choose. And I'm trying to do something a little different, whether we can go to a hospital, a homeless shelter, even detention centers if they allow that. So I'm trying to figure out something like that. But that hopefully will be out at the start of June. But the big thing is I have my own foundation called the Team Shorty Foundation, where I help kids, teens, and young adults stay inside the gym and off the streets, especially when the gyms open back up again. But it's teamshorty.com. 100% of the proceeds from anything you buy at teamshorty.com goes to my foundation to pretty much, again, help kids travel the world, try new things, or even get a second opportunity in life. And it's not just kids, but it's teens and young adults. So, people my age as well, just seeing if this might be a second chance in their life, fighting as a poor man's sport. So I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. And I appreciate your time as well, Brittany. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a good day, Shorty.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah.